the previous episode.
And imagine that they start doing the same thing. So you're getting sin yourself. Obviously, you're not covering yourself. But then not only that, it'll also be sinful for what they do after following you, after seeing you. So it's a huge responsibility. And, we will be accountable for that on the Day of Judgment. First topic I want to talk about for this video is cultural versus Islamic modesty, like what Islam actually teaches us. So what happens is that sometimes culture adds layers to modesty that Islam didn't even give us. Like Islam didn't even order us to do that, and culture is already telling us what we should do or what we should be doing. For example, Islam says cover your beauty, not like completely erase your personality, and you just have to be a housewife and sit at home the whole day and you cannot leave the house. That's something that some cultures, especially the Asian culture, that's the only one that I can speak about, because that's the one that I've been brought up in. But I know that in the Asian community, that's how some people still, they have this old way of thinking that stay in the house and the woman cannot do anything. Obviously, that's not what Islam is promoting and what Allah is commanding you to do. You don't have to be silent to be modest. You don't have to wear an all black abaya all the time. You just have to be respectful and portray yourself in a nice manner, so modest, and also being conscious of Allah the whole time, all the time in whatever you do. Sometimes what ends up happening is that because of these cultures, like the things that these cultures say, I would call that oppression. So that is actually the real oppression, not what Islam is commanding you to do. We know how in some cultures, like they do tell women to just, stay home and like just stay quiet, stay home. And in Islam, it doesn't say that you have to stay quiet. Like even the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to go and teach, or they sometimes used to stay in their houses and teach. So you can do both, and teach about Islam. So they were propagating it. So it was something beneficial that they were doing. Yes, if it's something that it's not going to benefit much or bring you any reward in the hereafter, then it's better to stay quiet. Of course, in any situation. Whatever we as Muslims say, it should be things of benefit, especially when we're like online propagating to others. Otherwise, if it's anything besides something useful, then it's better just stay quiet, because we don't want to get sin, right? We just want to get reward and benefit our hereafter. So in the Quran, Allah does say that to the nearest meaning that if you stay in the house, then that will be better for you. So what would that mean? So I will again pop the verse here, so you girls can see which verse I'm talking about. So basically, like, stay in your houses and don't expose yourself as the women in the time of ignorance they used to expose themselves. So what this actually means, so according to the Modesty, and I've done my research about this, is that first of all, we need to understand that in this verse, Allah is specifically addressing the wives of the Prophet ﷺ. So all the other women and all of us, of course, we look up to them, right? They are like the leaders of our nation. So because they had such a high status and such a high position in the sight of Allah, so this is why, I guess, like we can say, like, the rules were a bit more strict for them. Not to say that the times have changed, because Islam is for everybody at any given time. The reason why Allah is telling us to do that is to avoid, because we know nowadays there's so much corruption and fitna going on. There's so much fitna going on. So again, it's like a protection that Allah is giving us, and by telling us to stay at home, just so that we are protecting ourselves from such a corrupted environment. And again, that's not something bad. That's not like a bad command and something oppressive for us. Again, it's for our own protection. But of course, we ourselves, like, we can go out for, like, if we have any necessities. If a woman needs to work and she has to go outside, then of course she can go and do that. If she has to go do grocery shopping, of course you can do it. You can go and do that. You can enjoy yourself as well. It just basically means to protect yourself from corruption. Then it's better for you to stay at home, but not to say that you cannot leave the home at all, and you just have to 100% stay inside the house. The summary of what I'm trying to say is that because the wives of the Prophet ﷺ had a high public profile, so that is why their status was higher, so they had a higher role to fulfill. And also, again, we hear of so many incidents nowadays because girls are out alone by themselves, and you hear of so many incidents because of that. And again, it just makes me think that if they had a mahram with them, if they had a companion, even if it was their father or their husband, or if they were in a group of women, then maybe the situation could have been avoided. And I know this is going to be such a it's such a hot take, because people disagree with that and they want to think more freely, and everyone has their own opinion. But that's just my opinion. Not to say that I personally I do go out. So as a mom, like I really need that breather sometimes just to go out, get some fresh air, enjoy like do something fun and um, enjoy outside with my children as well. So of course you can go and do that. Allah is not restricting you from having fun and going outside. Literally, like Allah created nature for us human beings to enjoy, and that includes, of course, men and women. Basically, I guess what I'm trying to say is that staying home should be the default for us, and then, of course, if we have any necessities or if we really, if we need to, then of course we can go out as well. It's not like a prohibition. So I just want you to think about this verse, with an open mind and about this whole topic of modesty, really, with an open mind and put your arrogance and feminism aside, and really ponder and think deep about this and see how much it makes sense. And I pray that Allah guides all of us to, what is the truth. Another meaning behind what this verse could mean is about adornment. So do not adorn ourselves because it's going to again attract attention, which once again is contrary to the teachings of Islam. Like the next topic that I want to talk about is about modesty being for men too. So of course we know as women we need to cover ourselves and all of that I mentioned, but obviously for men as well, they also need to cover themselves. So it's not just for women, men also do need to cover themselves and cover their aura. And modesty in gaze as well, so what you look at, and this goes for both men and women. Essentially everything I'm mentioning is for both genders, is not just for women, like it applies for men too. So in the Quran, Allah tells men to lower their gaze before he even mentions women to lower their gaze. So it shows that modesty is a shared value. It's not like gendered burden that only goes for women. So that goes to show that even men should be controlling their behavior and like not swearing and making sure that they are behaving in the way that the Prophet ﷺ has taught us. Some men may think that it's a sign of weakness if you're not swearing or if you're being immodest, whether it's in speech, whether it's in your gaze. Like you may think that it's a sign of weakness, or you may be scared that people will think that you're weak. But that actually makes a man stronger emotionally and psychologically and spiritually. It's so beneficial for you to, try to copy the path of the Prophet ﷺ and the things that the Prophet ﷺ used to do and the way he used to speak and how he used to practice modesty. And it's actually going to be a protection for the man as well, because they're not going to be tempted to look at the wrong things. And it's going to, lowering the gaze for both men and women, it can protect marriages. Because I hear so many stories of marriages nowadays. They have so many of these problems because why? Problems of like cheating and things like that. And these happen because of not lowering the gaze in the first place. Because if they did do that and applied the teachings of Allah and the Prophet ﷺ, then none of that would have happened. And it's not something that's easy to do, especially nowadays. I do recognize that with everything that is going on nowadays and the exposure to social media, and it's just so easy to um, come across the wrong things. But we should try our best, and if we can't do that, then try to avoid being in such scenarios or situations and being put into such situations. So if you know that if you're going to be scrolling and you will inevitably be coming across something that is not appropriate for you to look at, then probably don't scroll. Or, if it does come up, then make sure to report it or do something about it. That is basically gonna make you not have to see that post again. We even have that ease. And not just in a way like looking like gays, but also you may also start seeing negative things in your spouse that you wouldn't have if you had lowered your gaze. And once again, this is why Allah and the wisdom behind why Allah has forbidden us to look at the opposite gender. So the best model that we can look for that is obviously the Prophet ﷺ. And also another Sahaba that comes to mind whenever I think of modesty and being guarded is Hazrat Uthman radiallahu anhu. And Uthman radiallahu anhu was a very close companion of the Prophet ﷺ. But one thing he really had the Prophet ﷺ liked very much was his modesty. And he was actually the son-in-law of the Prophet ﷺ as well. Just to say that instead of trying to seem strong in the sight of people who don't care about you, we should just strive to please Allah, who is looking at us at all times. Next time someone tries to box you in their version of modesty, remember that we have a blueprint in Islam that Allah has given us, and the Prophet ﷺ has like literally shown us how to do it. So I pray that Allah guides all of us and Allah makes it easy for all of us to practice upon all that has been said, and may Allah forgive me if I've said anything that I shouldn't have said or anything wrong. And I hope that this is beneficial for you. So please, if you've liked this video and if you've enjoyed it and benefited from it in any way, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe, turn on the notification icon so that you're notified when I upload the next video. And inshallah, I'll see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.